call the special meeting of the Town of Waterford Board to order on Wednesday, January 15th, 2025 at 3 p.m. Depending on what, I don't really know if we need to go into closed session, but if anyone would like to make a motion to go into closed session, they may do so. No motion for closed session. Okay, so we will be interviewing. We have our first interviewee. Good afternoon.
Oh,
How are you?
good, how are you?
Good. So I have here in front of me, or we all have here in front of us your application for employment. And what I think I'll do is I'll just go down the line and I'll let them ask questions and you can answer, and then we'll give you a chance to tell us whatever you'd like to tell us about you, okay?
Okay.
And I'll start with Supervisor Skoński.
Okay, well, usually how I start my interviews, tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm more or less I guess you could call me a public safety professional. I've got quite a few years in the fire department and EMS, fire, and law enforcement. I also own a private business. I do private security. I have been for probably 17 years. I've worked for the town of Norway for the last 17 years as well. I've done a myriad of different things. I'm a private investigator, also a fire investigator for the county. You guys see that's more or less a CV. It was supposed to be a resume. Resume is a little shorter.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah, why do you want to be a full-time police officer?
I'm looking for, I mean, times are getting the way they are, but I'm looking for full-time employment. Trying to get out of the private business, so.
Tell me about your time at Norway. What shifts do you work? What hours do you work? How many days a week?
Town of Norway is pretty open. It's a part-time, and if we ramp up, we can ramp up to full-time. It's more or less, we put in what we're available and that's what we get scheduled. So I can work pretty flexible hours. I can work noon to 8, I can work 8 to 4, I can work 4 to midnight. And I've done that for the last several years. So last 17 years, we do water patrol. I have a combination between the two roles, kind of 3 roles. I am a police officer. I do that about 40 hours in a pay period. And then I work at the fire department. So that's give or take, just an example, this pay period, I've already worked 60 hours at the fire department. So, and then I'm also the town's animal warden or humane officer. So that's kind of part-time, but put them all together and it's kind of a full-time gig for me, so.
Now, you worked here until 2014. I remember you being here. I remember one time we had the Balloon Fest and my wife and I were working the parking lot and you were there. That's my only memory. Why did you leave us at that time?
At that time, the department was probably not what I was used to with the where I was working at Norway. There were a few people that I didn't see eye to eye with, and I just felt that it was a little uncomfortable, so I left at that point.
Okay, well, thank you. That's all I have for now.
So we've all seen examples of a time when a manager or coworker breaks the rules or acts in an unprofessional and dishonest manner. Can you provide an example if this ever happened to you? What actions did you take, if any, to handle the situation? And would you be comfortable going to your supervisors should you see this type of problem?
I haven't had anything like this happen to me specifically, but I have had issues with coworkers that I've gone to supervisors over. It's truly, it has to rise to a pretty high level if it's not something that I can talk to them about ahead of time.
And why did you choose this type of career?
Do you really want that answer? I mean, do you want the answer when I started, or do you want the answer now?
Oh, give us both.
Well, the answer when I started is of course, I'm gonna help people. But I mean, the long and short of it now is I do it for the community that I live in, so, or the nearby community that I would live in, so, but that's ultimately why I do it now. I don't do it, like, for instance, we have issues with some of our supervisors, not at the police department, but, it's not about them, it's about the community, so it's about responding to and helping people in that aspect.
And about hours available, or I know you talked about getting out of the private business, so hours available. You're pretty open to whatever
Yeah,
shifts or
yeah, I
whatever.
would be open to whatever's open, so.
Thank you.
What special traits do you think you bring to the job?
Really?
The infamous question?
Well, a lot. I mean, what? A lot. I mean, I have a lot of experience. I've had, 20-some years experience in law enforcement. I've had almost 30 years experience in the fire service and, EMS. I pretty much, my example that I use to people, when I was a lot younger, I could go to a traffic accident and probably do every job there at one point, including the tow operator, because I worked as a tow operator once too. So I have a lot of experience from a lot of different places.
You said you left previously because the department was not what you were used to. What is it about this department today that makes you want to work at it?
Basically that it's starting over. I mean, I mean, you guys are gonna, to a point, I mean, there's not that many people left. You're pretty much starting over at this point.
And what does that look like to you, starting over fresh with what we have, and where do you see that department go?
I see it being a good department. I mean, I see it being an honest department. Some of the issues that I had when I started here was kind of more or less a good old boy club, and I didn't really appreciate that. I mean, when you get out of a squad car and you have people go, I don't know you, you're right, you don't know me. So we're gonna have a good experience here. We're gonna see how this goes. So we're gonna do the right thing and we're gonna go from there, so.
Along the lines of the question of having left previously, there is a note in your file about a citizen's complaint. Sergeant Jesse's wife, then Lieutenant Jesse. Is there anything about that incident that you'd like to discuss?
So I don't know, as far as I know, the file may indicate, I actually picked up a shift on that day. At that point in time, I had a newborn, didn't realize that at medical condition, I didn't realize I was diabetic, and that creates issues with, fatigue. I wasn't aware of that either. And I only got about 2 hours, 3 hours of sleep at that point. The issue that I had was, and what we do over in Norway is we stop wherever we are, or we go back to the police department. I couldn't go back to the police department for fear of wrecking the squad car, because I was extremely tired at that point. So I was all the way up by Caldwell. So that's why I stopped there. That was the only incident. That was the only time that ever occurred. So, and if that's what you're referring to.
Thank you.
Just add one more question because Mr. and Mrs. Bradford here, and I'm sure they'd be interested to know. We do have ordinances. And do you believe in following the ordinances and following through on ordinances and ticketing people who aren't following the ordinances?
Yes, I do. We have those, obviously we have those in the town of Norway as well, so. And yes, we do follow those. If there's a citation to be written, then, and it needs to be, then yes, we do write tickets, so.
To follow up on that and your comment about the Good Old Boys Club, does that ticketing and citing, does that also extend to town board members?
Yes,
Thank you.
No matter what the infraction.
if you're doing mock Jesus in the school zone, you're gonna get a ticket.
Any other questions from the board?
Yes, I got another one. What's the day-to-day task associated with being a police officer you feel is the most important?
Interacting with the community, proper way, I guess you could say. Trying to have a positive, impact.
Do you have any medical conditions that limit your ability to perform as a police officer?
I do not. The diabetic issue is under control.
I got another one. Do you remember most difficult or frustrating individual that you've ever had to work with? They've probably seen me, but do you remember anyone that was difficult or frustrating to work with, and how did you handle that?
I think we all have people that are difficult and frustrating to work with. I typically am professional and cordial and do what I need to do to get the job done. That's pretty much how I handle it.
So you believe you're doing the right thing,
Correct.
no matter how difficult it is?
Yes.
Thanks.
When were you contacted to arrange this interview?
A couple days ago, I think.
And who contacted you?
Sarah Polka.
Thanks.
When are you looking to start? If we do a background and stuff like that, when are you looking to start as a police officer?
The beginning of next month, maybe.
Would you still continue to work part-time in your Norway positions as police and animal warden?
Yes, I would. Because I'm not busy enough.
I understand that.
We can help with that.
Any more, anything else though? Anything else, anyone?
No, I looked at this resume, everything, I don't think I've ever mentioned before, but you know, I have a lot of questions, but I mean, most of them are answered.
Is there anything that you'd like to tell us that we didn't ask you? A narrative about anything?
I mean, you have it in front of you. I mean, that's pretty much, I can't really add any more to it. That was more or less, I put that together for my certified fire investigator. So we have to have that for court and everything else like that, so.
Anybody else? Okay, there is a process that we need to follow. I'm not sure if everybody's aware of that, that's up here, but there's a process that we do need to follow, so we will be, you know, going through that process, and we will be getting back to you unless there's anything else that anyone wants to add.
Just one thing that's unclear to me in the contract is a probationary period for anybody that we would hire. I'm not sure if that's 6 months or 12 months or how the board handles that, but I don't believe it's in the officer's contract anywhere. I think there's something in here that says the town clerk's office to identify positions subject to probationary periods and procedures.
All new full-time appointees to the department shall be on probation for a period of 1 year.
Okay.
All right, we'll be getting back to you. Thanks for answering my question.
Section 4, so you were on it before. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you very much for coming.
Appreciate it.
Mr. McDonald?
Well, I think
Yeah, 3:30.
3:30. So I'm going to pause recording until Mr. McDonald.
Actually, the agenda doesn't really mention
Oh,
time, so if
That's true. Yep.
the next person is ready.
I think you do it.
I'm not sure.
We told them 3:30.
Wait, I'm sorry, I was confused, what now?
We did tell them to be here at 3:30.
But he's not here.
If he's not the next person, who's the next person? I only got two.
That's all.
Yeah, that's the only two.
That's the only two I contacted.
So, who's on with that? Okay, so he's not here now.
I'm not sure.
You wanna go check? If we told him 3:30, he's not there.
Just curious why he was told 3:30 when at the meeting on Monday, it was discussed that this meeting would actually begin at either 4 or 4:30.
I know 3:30, you have to finish up with Brett. Okay. McDonald is here, he's just taking off his coat. And then he'll come in here. He's here.
Taking school.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, we're having a seat right here, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you for being here early.
Yes.
So you're gonna look at each other for 15 minutes.
No problem.
So, sir, I'm going to just go down the row and let every supervisor ask you questions, okay? And then afterwards, we'll give you a chance to tell us whatever you want to tell us about yourself. Okay. So with Supervisor Sklinski.
Okay, which of the day-to-day tasks associated with being a police officer do you feel most important?
Community driven, just being a community driven person, getting out there, speaking with the community, interacting with, public, kids, in your beat, just kind of getting out there and being seen. It's more than just, responding to calls, it's interacting with the community, getting that rapport with the community, so I feel that's very important. Instead of just, them seeing a squad car go by, and actually getting to know those people, and then get to know you as well, and know what kind of officer you are. It reflects a lot of department that you work for, so.
If hired, what is your availability for being able to work? Are you available on all shifts, weekends?
I do work full-time right now, so I have to be around that, so I guess my plan was to, on my off days from my full-time employer, to kind of pick up shifts.
What are your full-time hours?
I work second shift, 2 to 10, we work 5-2, 5-3 rotation.
Okay, yeah, that's similar to what we do here.
Okay.
You'd be part-time, you're correct.
Yes.
That's all for now.
We've seen some examples, when a manager or coworker breaks the rules or acts in an unprofessional and dishonest manner. Can you provide an example of when this happened to you? And what actions did you take, if any, to handle the situation? Would you be comfortable going to your supervisor should you see this type of problem?
Currently being a supervisor, I see it a lot. I'm a sergeant right now with my department. Example, I had a officer, kind of loses cool on a call, kind of arguing back and forth with the subject who was maybe seeking mental health. And this officer kind of was arguing with him, kind of lost his cool, so I had to step in and physically remove him. We talked about it later. I did have to issue a discipline, for that conduct. He did understand, he admitted, hey, it's kind of off my cool, I'm having a bad day. I advise him, obviously it can't happen, it looks bad, especially around other agencies that was out there with us. So again, that's how I handle it, pull them aside, talk to them, remove them from that situation, because it didn't make anything better. And then again, they accepted it, and I moved on from there. I had to report to my supervisors as well. So
And then,
What made you choose this line of work?
I wanted to do it since I was little. I was that kid that seen the police car driving by and lights and siren, oh, that's what I want to do. So, at a young 13, 14 years old, I joined the Explore Post in the city of Racine. Just kind of been involved ever since. Learned as much as I could. Tons of ride-alongs as a youth, and went to school. And by the time I was able to apply, had my credits and stuff like that, I applied and kind of got on and been doing it ever since. I just love it, I love the job itself. Every day you come in, something new. You meet all these different type of people, changing lives, helping people. That's what I like to do. I don't do it for recognition. It's just me,
thank you.
What special traits do you feel you bring to a position?
Goal-oriented, well-rounded. I like to learn a lot. With my experience in law enforcement, it's going on 10 years now. Supervisor experience. I know how to lead. I know how to work well with others. But a lot of trainings, leadership trainings, field training officer. I've been through the trainings, and I'm constantly still going through trainings as well. But just my experience itself,
How long have you been a sergeant in your current position?
current position, I've been a sergeant for a year, going on almost a year. April of 2024 is when I got promoted. I've been with, my current employer for 2.5 years now, so it's all something to me that they liked and promoted me. I do have prior supervisor experience as well with my first department, which was Chippewa County. So I was a sergeant there as well, so.
Thank you.
On your application, it says that you're looking to further your career within law enforcement supervision.
Mhm.
How does a part-time position as a patrol officer factor into those goals? And what do you see as challenges that you might face going from a supervisory position in one department to a patrol officer in another?
I think that, again, the more I work, every day I do the job, I can grow, continue to learn things. I didn't stop learning when I became a supervisor. I'm still learning. I'm learning more about how to work around, other employees, especially as a supervisor level, and the interaction that you have to have with, the first line, staff. I guess the challenges that I would probably see would be wanting to get in there and do more, as a regular police officer, at a part-time department, I would want to do more, but knowing that, okay, I'm only at this level, not that supervisor level, my eagerness, I have to back it down a little bit, so. Not saying that, I'm an arrogant person or anything like that. It's just very driven, motivated, I have an idea about something, I want to bring it to the table, I want to seek on how I can, expand that idea or make it happen, so. So I have to, for myself, okay, scale it back, but.
What are some of the benefits to being a supervisor that you could bring to a part-time job in this department?
Knowledge of the job and kind of like the leadership aspect of it, you know, learn how to lead a team, you know, kind of taking, not control, but, you know, just on the scene and knowing what to do, and know how to give direction. I think that would be kind of some of the benefits for that.
Seeing an applicant with a fairly high number of previous jobs does raise some concern. So I was wondering if there's anything that you'd like to tell us revolving around that, you know, to kind of explain why you've seen so many different positions.
My first department, I originally started in Racine County. I worked in Racine County Jail for 5 years. That was my career in corrections. I got my credits to apply for a police officer job. My application out there and everywhere. In Chippewa County was the first one that did. You know, so I moved my family up there. I was up there for a couple of years. Me and my wife at the time split up. She moved back down here to Racine with the kids. I stayed up there for a little bit, and then I kind of made the decision I should probably be closer to my kids. It was a 4-hour drive. It was getting to be much. So I applied for Waukesha County Sheriff's Department. I got hired there. I was closer. I was there for 5 years. It's kind of putting in for a bunch of positions, you know, specialties, you know, supervision, stuff like that. It was kind of getting looked over all the time. Supervision in Waukesha wasn't too great. There was high turnover. So I felt that it's time for a change for me. So that's when I put in for Caledonia. And then that's where I am now. So that's the reason for all the movement. You know, I was kind of wanted to better myself, you know, and look out for, you know, and be close to my family was the first move. And, you know, it was tough decisions to make, especially with, you know, went up north because I was a sergeant, and then it's like, okay, get that up and kind of start over. And staying in the Waukesha for 5 years, and it was like, I needed that spark, you know, that I had when I first was joined law enforcement. I was, you know, loved it, you know, and then I started to get, you know, getting drained, you know. It's like, I need to spark back. I need something new. So that's when I applied for Caledonia, and I kind of got that spark back. Like, okay, yeah, I still like this job. You know, I still like this profession. You know, so stick to it.
Just looking at the timing of things, you said Racine was where you got your training to be a sworn officer.
No, Racine, I was in corrections. It was in the jail.
Okay. But while you were there, you went and got the credits necessary.
Correct.
Okay. So, so Kenosha was before you were trained to be a deputy.
Kenosha?
Yeah. Kenosha.
Oh yeah, Kenosha I was in correction in Kenosha in 2007.
Yeah. So I was just trying to figure out the timing of the training and all of that.
Yeah.
And then one employer kind of stood out at me based on our previous interview here. It looks like you used to work for him.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes. Security, yeah. Years ago, yeah.
Anything there if you were both to be hired on that would be of concern?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, not at all. No.
So I got. Oh, how long? When were you contacted for this interview to set this up?
Monday.
And who contacted you?
Sarah Polka.
And when on Monday? Just general time frame.
Text me at. Early afternoon.
Okay, nice.
Okay. I'd have to look at my phone.
No, that's
okay.
Anybody else, Tim?
I don't know any questions on the resume here.
Do you have any medical conditions that prevent you from being able to perform your job as a police officer?
No medical conditions that will prevent me. I did just have knee surgery on the 23rd of December. So right now at my current employer, I'm on light duty. I think I'll get cleared from that from the end of this month. I'm like walking fine and, but I see my doctor again on 28th. I think it's just gonna clear me anyway, for forward duty, so. But, as far as, other medical conditions, it kind of hindered me from doing the job. It's being that I do it now full time, so.
Anything else, Bill?
No.
Okay, for the benefit of some of the residents that are here, one of my questions is, you believe in following all the municipal ordinances? I know we've had issues with, parking noise, things like that. Actually, I have somebody who wanted to sue because of their neighbor's lights, okay? So it's, how are you about, making sure that the ordinances are followed and people are actually ticketed when they need to be, no matter who it is? If it's one of the supervisors, no matter who it is, that we're doing the right thing.
I believe in it. Being fair with everyone. Again, like you said, no matter what your position is, I think everybody should be held accountable. On my end, I have a job, if I have a complaint, I have to address it. So I don't have an issue with that.
Anything else? Sir, anything that you'd like to tell us that we didn't ask you, that you wanted to let us know about you or your experience or?
I guess nothing that I haven't mentioned, at the beginning here. Like I said, I'm a well-rounded person. I love to get out there and talk to the public, interact, and be kind of like a social butterfly, That's just the type of person I am. Again, it's not the person you see here that's who I am. I don't put on a show for anyone. It's me, so.
Anybody else? One last chance? Okay, so, it is a process, which I'm sure you understand. We have policies to follow, we do have a process to go through.
Okay.
So we will be getting back to you, so, and I appreciate you coming today.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So actually, next up, if I could have a motion to just move number 2 down to number 3, because Mr. Dugas wants to be on the phone, but he said to make it as late as we could. He's got an appointment, so if I can have a motion to move number 2.
But before we get there, there is, the board will reconvene in an open session. We never went into close to discuss and possibly act on future interview processes for the police department. Do we want to discuss future processes of?
Well, I was one of them, I'll admit that, was involved in contacting him only because of, so low we are in personnel that we need to have people to fill the positions, qualified people. That's why I contacted him, that's why we decided to do this. I also see that there was, and I just got this packet on Monday of the, applicants, that there were 2 people that, applied for chief, and I feel we need to, look at them also.
Well, I would suggest waiting until the, application window for that job closes, so we have a full bank of the applicants.
And what day is that?
I believe it's the 21st.
Yes. So,
That is for the chief's position, correct?
yes.
Yes, that's what Dutch.
Okay, but we've had positions for the office open and closed several times, and the rest of the board never got applications or anything before.
Well,
So,
nobody ever decided to form a meeting to look at them like we were doing with the chiefs.
Well, I also believe that a motion to rebuild the police department failed at a special meeting last month, which also makes this meeting rather suspect.
how would we suspect?
Because you're going against the will of the board.
It didn't pass, but 2 supervisors called this meeting, and we are discussing looking at our police department staffing.
And one of those supervisors has a clear conflict of interest when it comes to the police department.
No, that's not true. The only conflict that I had was with the sheriff's department contract.
Oh, that
According
is,
to Eric, to Ryan Hayden, I can vote on anything else with the police department. Only with the sheriff's department contract was I to recuse myself.
I highly doubt that that is what he said. I would envision that any decision pertaining to whether the police department is rebuilt or a contract is signed with the sheriff's department is a direct conflict of interest for you.
No, it's not. I'll show you Ryan Hayden's email.
And I also note that none of the board members had any applications until
Correct, we didn't
Supervisor
receive-
Garcia
we
had
didn't
asked for
receive any
them.
of these.
So it wasn't like they weren't being withheld from anybody.
Well, I don't know where we'd ask for them. I thought they'd be just presented to us when they came in.
Part of the policy is that there is a review board for this, and we never appointed a review board, everything was kind of circumvented away from the police liaison, and in fact, you specifically tried to make the meeting today when you knew he couldn't make it today, so I'm asking that we all work together, to solve these issues.
And well, I remember at the December town board meeting, Tim asked for the applicants, the applications to be distributed, and that didn't happen until I asked Tina last Friday, so. I'm not criticizing you, Tina,
apologize.
it's just, that wasn't followed through on.
I don't remember that. I'm sorry. If that's
Understand
true.
there's been a lot going on.
No, I mean, if that's what was said, I don't remember that. I never would withhold applications.
No, it's
I have
not
no-
meant as a criticism, it was
No.
just brought up at the meeting, as I recall. You recall that, Tim?
And we've got a lot of meetings, so. Since we have two applicants, I would make a motion that we start background checks on both of them.
Do you see that, Vincent?
I would like to make a motion that we start background checks and proceed looking at hiring these two applicants if everything checks out.
I would be curious as to what the criteria was used to select two from however many applicants we ended up having.
You would know, we get the police liaison, so.
No, I wouldn't, because I was not included in the discussion that happened behind our backs to make this meeting and to select the two applicants who appear before us today.
There was no discussion behind anybody's back. We mentioned at the end of last week's meeting that we had a crisis. We had to interview some people, and we contacted these two, and they're here. If you want to contact other people and interview other people or interview a chief, you're certainly welcome to
Well,
do that.
that's my question, is what was the criteria used to select these two? There had to have been something that made you pick these two out of however many applicants there were.
Well, we would all do the same thing. We'd go through the applicants and see the ones that we found that were best. If you wanted to interview other applicants, you're certainly welcome to do so, as with any other board member.
Historically, this has been done as a board, not circumventing the police liaison or the chair, that's the issue that we have.
Well, first off, we only have a lieutenant until the end of next month, so time is of the essence. The other thing is, I would like to make a little statement. First, I'll apologize for my statement if it upsets anybody on this board. I really, sorry if it does. I want to say I did agree with the, investigations last year. In my opinion, there was a lack of management in that department. But now I feel we have gone the other way to micromanage, which by definition is to manage, especially with express control or, attention to details. The top board members meet with the police supervisor, two of them, every week. We have yet to find out what goes on in those meetings. It would not hurt to have 1 or 2 paragraph update every week as to what's going on. And the other thing is, why does the supervisor have to talk to the 2 town board members before doing any disciplinary action? And this was his words. He said, I don't know if I should do disciplinary action or if there should be an investigation. And this came right from the lieutenant the day after Christmas. It seems like I said, definitely mismanaging. Did we have issues there? Yes. Did we need to have the investigations? Most certainly. And I understand you guys put in a lot of time, but the rest of the board, like you said, now we need to be involved. We need to be involved. It doesn't take much to give a quick update as to what happened at the meeting. Department's doing fine, no complaints this week, or yeah, there's a couple positives, but there's a couple negatives. We need to work as a board.
Doug, you guys actually know what happened at a meeting, because what happened at a meeting is that you and Tim were in charge of reprimanding an officer that was voted on 3 weeks ago, and that is yet to happen.
Okay, if I want to address that, I'm going to wait until what's going on now to talk to our lawyer again. And I didn't have the lieutenant call me until after Christmas because he was on vacation. And I wanted to talk to him to get his input on it first. So it has been less than 2 weeks. And there again, mismanagement, yes, micromanagement is just as bad. And I could bring up a lot of things too, but I'm not going to here in public right now.
I don't believe micromanagement is reprimanding people for department policy violations.
Isn't that what you pay a supervisor for? You know, I took supervisor classes back in the day at AMC, took labor classes with the UAW. It's the supervisor's job to supervise the department. You know, if it's a major issue or something, yes, it comes to, this would be the board in manufacturing, it would go over their head. But the supervisor needs to have some leeway, and from what he said, he doesn't.
Part of the issue is that this has been so politicized with the sheriff's department being here, that the sheriff's department does not want to appear as having a conflict of interest. So they have deferred to the board, and Terry and I have brought that to the board, and the board voted for disciplinary action. And that disciplinary action was determined that would be handled by you and Tim, and it hasn't happened. And for the record, Christmas was 3 weeks ago today.
So then it was less than 3 weeks ago that he called me up. And she was off 2 days last week.
Okay, out of,
And then again, with
21
what's happening
days.
now, and we're meeting with the lawyer, I think we need to talk to him before we do anything else.
Well, then motion to adjourn until we discuss these with our lawyer on Monday.
What else is on the agenda?
We'll get to the other agenda items.
The contract, the citizens committee board.
I think we need to move on
Let's
that.
pick this up now, the Citizens Committee Board. I took a lot of emails, people emailed me. I spent the last weekend contacting people and talking to them on the phone, and I really appreciate the time that they spent on the weekend talking to me over the phone. And when I came back on Monday, there were some others that contacted other people. We have had this list of people. I gave everyone the list of the names and the phone numbers to contact them if they wished. So we, in the interest of moving that along, what I'm going to do is make the appointment for the board members, and then I have my nominations for the appointments, and then we'll go from there. So I believe the board members for the committee meetings would be Supervisor Ulander and Supervisor Schwartz. And my nominees for the resident committee would be Jim Filicetti, because I believe he's an accountant, he's got a lot of financial background, and we need that. And Rick Bruns. We'll go down the line, starting from Supervisor Sklansky.
I disagree. I think that Supervisor Ulander made his statements on how he stands in different things, and I think he would not be part of working with the village correctly to get us going forward on the police department. Also, with the impending thing that we have not discussed yet, we have to meet with our attorney, he was named in that also too, so I think there would be a conflict. As far as the board position goes.
So can you say the last thing again? The last sentence.
Which thing?
Conflict.
What's the thing that we have to meet with the attorney on, that was recently sent to us for the hostile work environment?
He wouldn't be working with any of the police employees.
True, but he stated here and the meeting many times on how he feels about we should go for the sheriffs. That's not gonna help working with the village of Waterford.
But this committee's not police versus sheriff, this committee is to create some type of plan and see if there's a viable plan to work with the village. We're talking about finances, we're talking about what would be needed, we're talking about constructing something, and then that plan would come to the board.
Yeah, I think that would be still conflict, so I'm against Supervisor Lander being on that committee.
I would agree. I think Mr. Ulander has stated that he's against the police department and for the sheriff's department, so to say he's gonna work with the village, I think would be a mistake. Also, I talked to Jim Filicetti yesterday. There was a 3 o'clock meeting with the sanitary district. He told me that he thinks that this committee would take too much of his time, and he was going to contact you about taking his name off the list. So I don't know if he did that yet.
Well, that's nice that you brought that up, because I actually talked to Jim Filicetti at 10 o'clock last night, who told me that Supervisor Stilinski took him aside after the meeting on Monday night and told him that he doesn't think that he should waste his time in this committee. Jim Filicetti would like to spend his time on this committee. He feels he has a lot to offer, but he wants to make sure that it moves forward and that it's not something that's just stagnant. And he did ask about the approximate time that we were looking at, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and he was told, he was getting the feeling that it was something that was just more of a smoke and mirrors muse to keep things status quo. And he is interested in working on it as long as it moves along and we produce a viable plan. I do believe that Supervisor Ulander would be good. He's got a lot of the inner knowledge of what has to go on with the PD. He's one of the only ones that knows the policies and the processes of what has to happen. And if you are serious about having a committee to get something done, that's what needs to happen.
I'm gonna say
I
something.
also believe that Rick Friends would be good because he's got the knowledge and the background of what needs to be done.
Okay, I guess I'll throw my, I do like Rick, things, I talked to, and on Monday morning actually, and he did mention, like you said, 4 to 6 weeks, he did have a time constraint. I felt there were, first, I'd like to thank all of them for volunteering for the position, for being on the committee, but I thought there were a couple other ones that could be, maybe a little better than Jim that have police experience. And one would have been, Terry.
Yes.
And, you know, I just talked to, Rob a little bit last night possibly, and there was, the one that did not call me back, but it sounded pretty decent, was Mark Thompson. I left a message and I didn't talk to him. So that's why I thought,
Yeah.
that's why I thought I would throw those up there.
We did have a lot of really good ones. We're trying to form in my mind, someone with the police experience, someone with the finance experience, to get this to come together.
I think it's important to have a well-rounded knowledge base on this committee. With Rick Renz, you have that police department managerial experience. From what I've heard from him, he is very knowledgeable in what it takes to set up a joint department. As to the accusations leveled in my direction, I will admit that I have been in favor of going with the sheriff's department from a purely public safety and economic standpoint. It makes sense in every aspect when you look at the level of public safety that they can offer at the price that they could offer it for versus a department that we currently have. I am willing to listen to the rationale as to why this department is worth the price tag. But so far, I haven't heard anything that justifies this price tag for the level of service compared to the price tag that the sheriff's department has offered. I am open to input if somebody is willing to change my mind. But this board has chosen not to go with the sheriff's department at this time. In fact, this board has even chosen to not let the residents of Waterford decide which direction they want to go. But the board did agree to set up this committee. And if I am on that committee, I will do my best to work with the village. I have not had any negative associations with the village that some other members of this board had as a relative newcomer to the politics of this area. I don't come with all of the baggage that some members of this board carry with them. So if I am selected for this board, I will do the utmost job that I can to satisfy the requirements of that committee.
Thank you. According to ordinance, the chair makes the appointments for the supervisors. So I believe that would be Supervisor Schwartz and Supervisor Uhlaender, and we can do some more discussion on who we'd like to put for the members at large. And I still believe in Jim Filicetti.
But it's subject to approval of the town board.
So could you tell me anyone at this table who you think is not biased as far as the police, sheriff?
It's just that we can
Absolutely
consider
not.
other people. We've had Ed Olander and John.
No, I'm
Funk.
talking about supervisors,
Oh, well, it would have to be Tim or Doug.
but they're biased too.
Well, Doug has already been selected, so that leaves Tim or me. So Tim wanted to throw out the hostile work environment allegation that came forward. But I noticed he made no mention of the investigation that was conducted into his behavior.
Which is still ongoing, which also has to do with the police officer. I would like to see some movement on this.
I make a motion to accept the nominations as appointed by the board, by the board chair.
For which ones? Because I still agree that Jim Filicetti would not be a candidate for the citizen. I like Mark Thompson. Richard Renz, he's fine.
Okay, so who are you, Chair?
Mark Thompson, and Richard Renz.
And
Richard.
Richard Renz. Dale?
I would agree with those two.
I would agree, yeah, just looking at, was a trustee, and I believe it was West Salem and that, I would like to have talked to him, but I couldn't get hold of him, but yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean,
Personally, I like the idea of having Jim on there for his financial experience.
I do believe, I mean, who on this board would have that financial backing and
And the
that financial
finances
experience?
is,
That's gonna be a big piece of it. I mean, that's a big piece of it is the financial piece of it.
so I will stick with the motion that I make a motion to approve the nominations as appointed by the board chair.
Jim Philistetti,
And
Rick Renz.
And me and Doug.
I'll second that. Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so another motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion to keep the two, board members, but that we would have Rick and Mark Thompson. But, if you talk to, Mr. Philisetti, I would say that committee could call him in and get his input on things.
So you don't want them on the committee, but you want to call them in.
Well, I'll just use the border committee. We had 5 people on the border committee, but we brought other people in for their input. Whether it was the DPW, whether it was the police, whether it was the fire, just to get more input from everybody else too.
Okay, so that's a first, is there a second?
Repeat that.
Saying Mark Thompson and Rick Renz.
Yes,
So you're making a second?
I'll second those two, yes.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed to the first one.
You're opposed to that?
Not the two citizens, but you did it all as one. The first motion died.
Right.
But then we did, but now he made a second motion, and I think Dale misunderstood it, because he only heard the two. But the first one was Bob and Doug, and I opposed that.
okay, you had,
So-
I thought you had said that you were gonna make a motion for
I just said the same
Okay.
two,
same two
I
board
was gonna say
members.
trustees, sorry, supervisors.
This was a vote for the two citizen members, correct?
That's what I thought.
The motion was for all 4, I thought.
Yeah, it was,
Yes,
it was to
it was.
keep the supervisors that were
Okay.
appointed and, Rick Renz and Mark Thompson as the citizens.
Repeat those supervisors again.
Okay, so I believe this should be a well-rounded committee, okay? So we've got Supervisor Ulander, who's the police liaison, and Supervisor Schwartz. And then Mark Thompson and Rick Renz. The police liaison, who's been dealing with all the police stuff in the last year, who knows what's going on, who knows everything, and you guys really haven't been around. I would say that the police liaison would be the most, you know, the person who's most adequate to do this job. He's gonna be one person against what, 7 other people? He's not gonna come in and talk about the sheriff. The job here is to create a plan for a joint police department with the village and see if that plan is viable. So you made that motion, I will second it. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Opposed.
thank you, let's get this done. And we're going to move on to number 3. Which we kind of switched, we went out of order a little bit, so Mike can be, let me just try to get Mr. Dewis on the phone, okay?
Okay,
Hi, Mike, how are you?
okay.
Thank you, are you done with your session?
We got about, 15 minutes, we'll be done.
Okay,
Is that okay?
No, we're,
no, well, we're pretty much at the end, we'll just take a couple minutes, so is that okay?
Okay, wait, take a 5 minute.
Yeah, let's
Yeah, I'll tell you right there, hang on a second.
Okay,
let's take a break, let him finish his PT and come back.
okay.
Let's do it here.
Okay, so what we're talking about is the amendment with the contract with the village, because obviously they understand and we understand that we cannot continue to fulfill the contract with 2 police officers right now. And we sat down with them. They did prepare an amendment, which is using, you know, 1 officer.
Is this in closed session right now?
No, we're not in closed session and you're in speakerphone. So we agree with, you know, the whole using 1 officer for town and village. The thing that I spoke to you about, which I would ask you to speak of, is a recital of circumstances, please, sir.
Yeah, hi, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, they can now.
Okay, well, thank you very much. First of all, I just wanted to comment, I never saw the initial contract for police services, so I'm only commenting on the amendment here. I have a document that says amendment to the 2021 Town of Waterford and Village of Waterford contract for police services, temporary emergency circumstances.
Yes,
So that's the document, right, Terry?
yes.
Okay. I went through before I get to recital of circumstances, there was one, number E. This is, maybe it was intentional, maybe it's not a problem at all. It says during times of exigent circumstances with the village administrator, with the village administrator and village president are authorized to work with the town board or police chief to approve modified staffing arrangements. Do you want to work with an entire board, or do you want, for example, the village administrator is functioning on his or her own? The village president is functioning on his or her own. On the town end, it's the town board or police chief. And so that we don't have actually a police chief at this time. But, so it would have to work with the entire board. Does somebody perhaps want to consider changing that? And again, that's not a big concern of mine, but I looked at it and it seems to be required an entire meeting of the town in order to do something. So, anyone want to speak up on that?
Yeah, I understand that. And again, Bob and I have sat down and talked with them before, but I think anytime it comes to contracts or amendments of contracts, then we bring it to the full board.
But I think in this case, he's saying
Just
that
talking about approving, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, go ahead.
I'm sorry, let me-
if this is approved, then the village administrator or the village president is authorized to work individually in their own authority. But on our end, it takes the entire board. So change from town board to town chair or police chief or police liaison or police chief or something so that an individual can interact with their counterpart in the village rather than requiring the entire.
Correct, yeah, that's correct. That would be my only comment on that you might want to put an individual on there, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well then on the, but aside from that, I had no problem with this agreement, except for the recital of circumstances. And the only reason I say that is, let me just read it, it's short. This amendment is entered into by both parties with the understanding that the town is actively searching for replacement officers and a police chief as of November 2024, and will continue such a search, now here's the part, until viable candidates are identified and hired. So the way I read this is that this amendment is effective with the understanding that eventually the town is going to hire a police chief. And I don't know if that's been decided yet. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't, I don't know. But my point is locking, in my opinion, is locking the town in to the hiring of a police chief and a replacement officer. So is it also locking, and again, it's I have not attended one of the police meetings, just so your folks understand. This is the first police meeting I have had that I've been involved in. Other council has done this, but I can read what this says. And it says to me that this amendment's effectual, but the town is going to hire a police chief. And that seems to me to mean that the town is going to go along with a local police department, which it may. And I'm not saying, I have no dog in this race. So that the town's going to hire, have a own police department, that's fine. If the town's gonna go with the sheriff, that's fine. All I'm saying is that this recital of circumstances clause says to me, we're gonna hire a chief. And, ipso facto, if you're gonna hire a chief, you're gonna have a local police department. So, if that's what the intent is, fine. But if that's not the intent, then I think this clause needs to be rewritten.
Thank you, Attorney Lewis, and that was my concern about the contract as well. Mr. Houston, would you like to step forward?
Yeah, I would like to say, first of all,
Please come to the front of the microphone, please.
first of all, it's amendment to a contract. Okay, if the contract doesn't exist, or you guys decide to give us notice, then neither does the amendment. You understand?
Well, I think we lost the attorney.
I think we lost you. Okay, Mr. Houston is up talking. Okay, here we are.
Can you hear me? First of all, the way I look at it, it's amendment to a contract. And if the contract doesn't exist, neither does the amendment. So for the contract not to exist, you guys would have to give us notice and 6 months, and then the contract won't exist, or if it expires the end of the year. Obviously, that makes no difference if there's no contract, correct?
Again, I haven't seen the first contract, but if you're saying that no contract exists, why does that clause,
No, I'm not
why
saying,
does that clause even have to be in the contract? I guess I'm asking, why in this amendment? You're calling it an amendment, so you can't amend something that doesn't exist.
no, there is a contract, okay?
So,
There is a contract,
so
Well, I don't know who am I speaking to, by the way.
this is
This is
Don
Don
Houston.
okay?
Oh, hi, Don.
Hi.
Well, that's, you can take it for, that's my opinion on it, Don.
I guess that's the way I look at it, it's not binding if there's no contract. And if you guys decide to give us notice, then obviously it's not binding, so I guess.
Well,
And in my opinion, if we have a contract or not, there's no reason why this recital of circumstances needs to be in an amendment. And it does bog us down, and does not give us any leeway, which there's been no vote really either way.
if you wanna call me on it,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a landline. Use that instead.
That's okay, Mike. I think we got your opinion. Thank you.
I've got a landline here. I don't think it's myself, but if it is, if you call it a landline, it's not, do you want the landline number?
That's okay, Mike. Is there anything else you wanted to say, or?
Oh, no, I mean.
Okay.
I'm perfectly willing to discuss it. I'm not trying to shut, I told you what I think.
Yes.
Um,
And thank you. We appreciate that. If we need anything else, I'll give you a call.
Okay.
Thank you,
All right,
Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You should read the original contract. It's kind of hard to comment on an amendment if he doesn't know the original contract.
Well, he should, so. But either way, this is an amendment
To a contract, and I agree with Attorney Lewis that we don't need that recital of circumstances.
Anybody from the board would like to?
Yeah, I think this is an innocent enough thing. I mean, it's just stating that this is an amendment by both parties, that we're actively searching for replacement officers, which we just did a few minutes ago. And we're looking for a chief, which we talked about having interviews in the near future. And this is just saying that during exigent circumstances, which we're certainly under, we're allowing a single officer to cover both jurisdictions. So to me, this is a no-brainer. Let's just go ahead and vote to do this. This is not causing any harm to anything. It's just putting in writing what the practice is that we're already doing, and we're trying to get some more officers and a chief in here. I don't see any problem with the wording as is. I agree with Dale.
I see both sides of it, that on the one hand, it's an entirely unnecessary paragraph, but on the other side, that if you give them notice to terminate the contract, then the entire contract, including the amendment, is terminated. But I would like to see that other change that Attorney Dugas talked about, just to simplify the discussion process. So it's between the individuals rather than requiring the whole town board. Is that something you'd be amenable to?
I would have to read it, but, you guys have quite a bit of arguments between
John,
board
could you
members.
come up front when you're speaking, please, so everyone can hear you?
There's quite a bit of disagreement between the board members. Now, I don't remember how it's stated, I don't remember the whole contract, but it might be a good idea that the whole board rather than one person decides, but again, I would have to look it over. I
I
don't
don't
wanna
think
take something out of context, but.
Sure, that's fair. I don't think there's anything nefarious in here, and I don't know why, I mean, I don't even know why I would necessarily need a discussion rather than just more of a notification that says, hey, Village of Waterford, we're short-staffed today, we have one officer covering the entire territory.
Well, as we talked about, when we met, at least 3 months ago, we would write this up. That way it gave flexibility that we're agreeing to be flexible because of the short staff. That was what this whole intent of this was. There was no other intent of chief or any of that stuff. It was just saying that, no, you don't have to have the exact officers that you're contracted with and on those days. So, and that the sheriff that's handling it knows that. So you don't have to leave the town short-staffed or anybody else or overworking them. The whole intent of this is just to work together till we get some hirings done and get some things figured out.
And
So there was no other ill intent to this. That's what we talked about. And we just, Zeke wrote it up. I read it over. Okay, fine. It wasn't it was meant to be a simple amendment to fix kind of our short-term problem.
so would it be okay with, and I don't want you to speak for your entire board, I don't know if this needed entire board approval or if this falls under an administrative function between you and Zeke. But rather than even having us involved at all, whoever is the supervisor in there, whether it's the sheriff's department, a chief, or officer in charge, that when they determine that, hey, we are short-staffed today, we have one officer covering, I don't personally need to be involved in that decision-making. It's just more of a notification to the village that says, hey, on this day, we only have one officer. We're not fulfilling the original contract.
In that circumstance, I agree with you,
Okay.
for sure. I don't know again how that statement's in context.
Because honestly, I don't feel that needs to come to this level every time for staffing.
Absolutely not, absolutely
I
not.
agree.
But yes, our board does have to pass that after you guys have.
Okay.
Good, thank you. Okay, can I have a motion on this, please?
I'll make a motion to accept the amendment, but with the change in there that they would notify the supervisor of the police department.
I'll second that.
Okay, first and second, any more discussion?
Just want to clarify, who is notifying the supervisor of the department and what are they notifying them of?
About being short-staffed and that they would be like sharing one officer for the day.
So the department supervisor would be notifying the village?
Correct.
Okay, yes.
Okay, we have a first and second, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, and motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting adjourned at 4:10 PM. Thank you.